Even dreams aren't black and white. Sometimes they mix up strange images with familiar scenes, and past memories with possible revelations. And a special talent for someone can be a terrible curse to someone else. She was a natural artist. She tirelessly destroyed and created things. She couldn't start the repetitiveness of daily life. To her, it was an invisible prison. She always wanted something new, and she got it easily. The only thing she could never have was patience.
Welcome back for, you guessed it, more Epic 7 lore. Last time, we went through the backstory of our Phantom Queen, Tenebria, and I said there would be a theory regarding her true nature. So, let's get into that theory, shall we? Let me start with a quick recap of our last video where we explored Tenebria's backstory found in the Blood and Roses side story within a hidden story involving Charles and Corvus investigating a cursed mansion. I will put a timestamp in the description for those that want to skip to the theory. We discover that Tenebria was once the daughter of a count and a countess who lived a lavish lifestyle in a small village. She was a curious girl who cared not for the boring, mundane life of reality, but instead retreated into the eternity of illusions. One day, she comes in possession of a strange rock that speaks to her, revels in her desires, and then grants them to her in the cruelest way, not unlike the Tenebria that we've come to know. The daughter is given the power to inflict others with illusions, to give people their most treasured desires, but in a form that is destructive to them. Eventually, she turns the entire village against itself, and everyone begins murdering one another to achieve their desires. It's only when the daughter discovers her parents among the dead that she is thrown into a frenzy as the truth sets in. The stone requests that she give up her humanity, and it can relinquish her pain, to which she ignorantly agrees. Without her humanity, she becomes the sinister, Joker-like, chaotic character that we've come to know and love today. I propose to you, dear lore enthusiast, that there is not simply a single entity called Tenebria. I believe that Tenebria is a collection of entities that may all share a root existence, similarly to how the mythical Hydra exists. The Tenebrias that we encounter on the land of Orbis are the many heads, but they all share a central body, a central existence. This body, I suspect, is the being behind the never-before-seen color. Since the original Tenebria gave up her humanity, we can say that the original Tenebria's soul was imprisoned, allowing whatever entity the never-before-seen color was to take physical form on Orbis. The side story involving Charles and Corvus hints at something that excites me greatly. It subtly lays down the groundwork for a Tenebria redemption arc, where the never-before-seen color is confronted, and the original Tenebria's soul is returned to her body. Tenebria's mother also appears to be kicking around, presumably as a ghost too, holding onto her daughter's soul until her body returns. The grandest narrative I can come up with involves the story where, after we visit the eastern continent, we return to Britannia to find it completely overrun by monsters. Each area is being tormented by a different form of Tenebria, and we must battle through her most powerful illusions to reach the real her, fighting every enemy we fought throughout our journey on Orbis. Eventually, we find her, and it is revealed that the never-before-seen color was the primordial god Nihilum, who began the Archdemon War years ago, but has realized that something is unique about the heart of Orbis. He is finally, formally introduced into the lore, but is defeated due to the limitations of his power, still not fully manifesting into reality, fully through Tenebria's weakened body from having expended so many versions of herself. Nihilum retreats as the original Tenebria's soul is returned to her body by the ghost of her mother. The concept of Doppelganger Tenebria is not new. In fact, many of you probably thought of this idea when going through episode 1 on your own, since Tenebria was the only prominent character where herself and her Moonlight version were present in the main story. It is the ramifications of this theory, though, that spark worthiness for thought and discussion. It is well understood that Tenebria and Spectre Tenebria have slightly different personalities, and you could argue and chalk that up to them being in different circumstances, but that is why I wanted to add my own take on the idea that all of the Tenebrias are different, yet part of a central body. This could combine both theories together while still conveying the existential horror of a multiple Tenebria story. Tenebria's base personality is very much like the Joker in the Dark Knight movie series, where her only motivation is to create as much chaos as possible for as long as possible. However, her Spectre form leans moreover towards direct destruction, whereas her fire element form matches the personality of the original Tenebria much more, a young, carefree girl who enjoys watching people writhe in pain of their own making. In truth, Tenebria's illusions can only be as powerful as a person's individualistic desires. This is why her illusions were broken so easily by Ras, a divine being whose individualistic desires don't function the same way they do in humans. Some of you may recognize that Fastus also used a similar tactic on the heroes at the end of episode 2, but because they are already at the end of the episode, there really isn't much time to explore the mental damage this kind of attack can cause. Imagine a narrative where Tenebria was able to infiltrate Britannia from the very beginning of the episode, and Ras would be forced to battle through his deceived comrades while not knowing exactly where Tenebria was due to her shape-shifting abilities. I'm just going to leave you all to think about that one a bit more. Now, let's take a look at each of the Tenebrias and how they all have slight differences, but at their core, they're all trying to achieve the same thing. At present, 4 Tenebrias have been revealed in-game: Spectre Tenebria, Fire Tenebria, Fairy Tale Tenebria, and Dark Tyrant Tenebria. The first 2 are present in episode 1, and both of them appear to me to have fairly different personalities. Tenebria does not appear consistent between these 2 forms, as if she were simply changing her clothing between the events. Spectre Tenebria seems rushed and violent. She is summoned by Plum and immediately focuses on Ras. She wants to torment him, which is pretty much her MO all of the time, but she's very direct and hastily attempts to destroy half of the city. This is incredibly aggressive in contrast with the Tenebria we face in Chapter 7, where she is methodical and takes her time, toying with the Order of the Shield and then also toying with Ras and his companions. One might say that she was actually successful in this because of how she was able to place enough doubt in Mercedes to assist in the circumstances that led to her merging with the Archdemon. Tenebria takes her time, gradually playing into the desires and weaknesses of our heroes. She doesn't destroy anything here. Another way to look at all of this is that the Tenebrias are linked together, but still hold their own individual tendencies. In the side story we went through last video, it does appear that all of the Tenebrias originated from a single being. What we cannot confirm yet is whether or not the never-before-seen color is still in control of her, or if it did its thing and then left, leaving a broken, insane girl behind. In that side story, Dark Tyrant Tenebria is shown briefly, but does not really seem to have much significance in terms of purpose, apart from looking seductive, which sadly did not appear to have any effect on the Knights of Ezra. Perhaps, at the moment she gave up her humanity, the Dark Tyrant was born out of her resentment. Perhaps Spectre Tenebria is what she looks like when she's summoned onto Orbis, but the Dark Tyrant Tenebria is what she looked like while in the Nightmare. What if the Nightmare is an actual dimension like Straze's cloak? I seriously hope that the Dark Tyrant Tenebria will also have more of a role in future plotlines. And then there's Fairy Tale Tenebria, the newest Tenebria to join our rosters, who comes from another world based off of Alice in Wonderland. I'm not entirely quite sure where to place this Tenebria in relation to the others, but if I were to posit a guess, I would focus on the relationship between Tenebria and Angelica. It has been postulated, without 100% proof, that Angelica is an analog for a higher entity that is masquerading itself as Angelica. I'm not going to go into the details on how this is the case in this video, but look out for another one concerning Angelica in the future because she's also a very interesting character. To make a long story short, this interaction could reveal a similar relationship in the dimension of Orbis, where we are dealing with. What if Tenebria is also an analog for another celestial? Just like how Angelica is being hinted as one too. Both of them have, at this point in the story, taken a back seat, only appearing in snippets during side stories, which makes me wonder if SmileGate is saving their main stories for the main plot in the future. Fairy Tale Tenebria also highlights her and her other versions' fundamental flaw. This is proven by how whenever Tenebria is losing a battle, she simply retreats under the guise of the battle becoming boring. Tenebria originally is ultimately afraid of not winning due to her original personality being a genius, and thus very powerful. She retreats before she is forced to accept the fact that she has lost. She plunges others into illusions because she herself is constantly living in what she wishes was an illusion. It's a common defense mechanism for us humans to criticize others for issues that we ourselves are having. This all begs the question of what the never-before-seen color is. Here's what I think, and this is going to be completely speculative. Like I said before, I think the never-before-seen color has something to do with a celestial, possibly the primordial celestial Nihilin, or some other dark star referenced by Fastus, attempting to install an agent onto Orbis as a result of the heart of Orbis representing something significant in the Celestial War. Red Tenebria does state that she dies in Chapter 6, but I personally do not believe that this is the case, as every other Tenebria just sort of vanishes. So I think there's evidence to suggest that the central being of Tenebria is still very much alive, and connected to the strange otherworldly events that are transpiring. Epic 7's plot appears to be, at the moment, centered around these beings that exist in rocks and meteors. The last Tenebria that we know of at the creation of this video is Schoolgirl Tenebria. We can only speculate on what kind of role this iteration of the character will have, so what I'm praying for to the Church of Illyrios is her inclusion into at least a side story. I could easily see a side story where Yuna returns home and goes to school, only to find another version of Tenebria has followed her back and threatens to plunge Japan into an eternal illusion. And that's all I've got for now with this theory. Do consider liking the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more lore. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the theory, and if you have your own theory about the nature of Tenebria. I'm hoping that SmileGate will provide us with more Tenebria content in the future, because I think that she is a character with a lot of potential to be an incredibly powerful and effective antagonist. Furthermore, if you have any ideas for any obscure side stories that secretly provide rather large lore implications, jot them down in the comments and I will definitely take a look at them for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep it real.